Well, this was one of the first big album covers we did together, and still one of my favorites of all time, Gary.
Yeah. I'm good.
Kai, we got to start over, man. Take two. I already knew Stephen and David from the days when we were all folk musicians. And then Mama Cass introduced me to Graham in New York when he was there with the Hollies.
Big deal. I hung out with David and Cass every day. And we would go and spend all our time hanging together. I was there when they decided to become a band. So when David and Graham and Stephen went into the studio to make their first album, obviously they asked us to do the cover.
Back when I had hair, when I was a thin lad. Can I tell them the story about this?
Yes, you should tell them.
Well, you probably can tell that we are not in the proper order here.
We knew that we were going to use our names because we'd all been in bands like the Birds and the Buffalo Springfield and the Hollies, but we had not decided what we were going to call ourselves. So this day started in Gary's house on San Vicente. Here's one of the proof sheets of one of the many proof sheets of us all sitting on the back porch singing and stuff. And we would actually be singing. This was not posed. This is how we'd do it. We'd just sing.
Chestnut brown canary, ruby-throated sparrow, sing the song, don't be long, thrill me to the marrow.
We'd found the house, I think, a day earlier or something.
Yeah.
And it was opposite the Santa Monica Car Wash, if I remember rightly.
Well, here we are on Palm Avenue. That used to be the Orange Julius stand right there.
And it had this funky vibe, and it had this really old, decrepit couch, and it kind of fit with the kind of image that we wanted to project, which was down home and comfortable and funky, and that's how the music was.
Yeah, it was right here. This was it right here.
We are like inside the house right now.
Exactly. And that's where those guys lined up.
Forward a little more. This is where they were sitting on the couch, right about here. Okay?
Right. Okay, you guys, now this is it. Let's rock.
Watch the birdie.
Right.
Okay, and then we just went.
Stephen, hold that guitar up a little bit, man.
Get that.
Great. Yeah, great.
A few days after taking this picture, they actually named themselves Crosby, Stills, Nash. At the time of this picture, they hadn't settled on a name. And so when we looked at the picture, it's actually Nash, Stills, and Crosby, which is backwards. And I remember thinking that would be very confusing. And we all agreed that we'd go back, a couple days later and retake the picture.
We went back the next day to reshoot this, and the house was gone.
It wasn't there. I mean, it was just a pile of timber in the back.
This is why people for years have been coming up to me and saying, "Gee, Nash, so pleased to speak to you."
Do 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 do.
Because in those days they demanded that you have certain things on the record cover, like where it says stereo and the company logo and the type on the top and all that stuff. I tried to lay everything in so that it would be least conspicuous possible. And so you really could see your photograph in the best possible light.
A couple of days later, I believe, we went up to Big Bear to shoot the inside cover.
We wanted to go to the snow, so the three of them and Henry and I and Joni Mitchell hired a limousine and drove up to Big Bear.
We were there for like 2 hours in this car. I mean, I just kept taking pictures so that I wouldn't go crazy. And Joni was really writing in this notebook, and a couple of years later, just out of curiosity, I blew up one of those pictures big enough to see what she was writing on there, and it turned out to be the song that she was writing about Graham called Willie.
Here's a shot of Joni writing Willie, actually, which was what my friends call me.
I have kissed you, so I'll miss you. On the road, I'll be wanting you.
When we first got out of the limo and we walked down into the snow, we were all kind of playing around. Stephen was kind of sledding on his camera case, you know, and Graham was throwing snowballs or something, and he backed up and sat in a bush.
That was a great day. I remember I slipped and tore my pants.
Well, he'd actually sat in the bushes and cut himself a little bit on his posterior. And so Joni got a Band-Aid out, and she was putting a Band-Aid on his butt.
Don't they look sweet and sincere? Nice little kids. Just finished a joint, all starry-eyed. Look at them there. Hey, there's nothing nice going on. Those boys are thinking about pussy. All three of them. I promise you. These boys were cabooses to their dicks. Just followed them around. Nothing but little penises and fur jackets. That's it. There it is. 3, right in a row. Hey, it's the truth. You know.
The bottom line for the record companies was that they didn't spend money on album packaging. That was not something they even discussed. They put it in the cheapest possible package. Their philosophy was, if you have a hit record, you can put it in a brown paper bag and send it out. So here I was asking them to spend 3 times as much money to make a package. And, you know, they were absolutely not going to do it. And fortunately, I was able to resist their resistance by using the power of the band to say, you will spend the money. So in the end, the record company called me and said, you know, Gary, you were a huge pain in the ass to us, but I guess you were right, because the public did respond and bought the album. And ironically, in the years that came, they used that same fancy paper for all their albums.